Hello, five-star leading ladies. My name is Tenille Holley. I go by First Lady, go by Prophetess, I go by Pastor. Whatever, have it. My name is Tenille Holley, and I am a servant of the Most High God, Jesus Christ. I am from Rochester, New York, and I have been challenged by First Lady Michelle Proctor, who is a longtime friend and mentor to me. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a household with a single mother because my dad was killed when I was 9 years old. He was killed, shot dead on the street, and that has been the story of my family's life. I have my little brother who was killed at 10, my mother's other ex-husband killed by some violent gang members, and so forth and so on. I have an uncle that was killed. So my family has a long history of people being killed in it. But nevertheless, I grew up in a household with a mother who thought that her children couldn't do any wrong, and that she thought that the way that she could show that she loved them was by giving them everything they wanted. Not necessarily what they needed, but what they wanted. And so I grew up not really knowing who I was or who I was supposed to be. I didn't grow up in church or anything like that. I could recall a few times going to church with my grandmother, but she was heavily in church then, and then eventually she stopped going. But I can only recall maybe twice going with her on Easter, you know, the times that people usually show up for church, and I would go with her. But ever since I could remember, I had been having visions, dreams, where the Lord will always show me things, and I would say it, and people would think I was crazy, or people would be like, oh, they don't want to be around me because they thought I was weird. But even through that, I found that the Lord had been showing me things for a very long time, things that were to come, things that were past, things that are present, whatever it was. So I ended up struggling in my life trying to figure out who I was, because I never really had anybody to sit me down and let me know, you know, you are beautifully and wonderfully made, or that you are, you know, someone that the Lord loves, or you're, you know. And for the fact that matter, my mother never really said that she loved me a whole lot either. She just kind of did for us, and allowed me to do whatever I want, which led to a violent life of selling drugs and giving myself away to people who didn't deserve me, and so many other things, drug usage, and life of stripping, prostitution. But eventually I ended up coming into Christ when my 10-year-old little brother, he got shot in the head, and he was, you know, just in the neighborhood, and a drug dealer shot him in the head. The gun went off, and he died instantly. From that point, after that, I went you know, into the bars, and I started drinking crazy, started fighting, doing a whole bunch of other stuff. But then I had one friend who actually was a partier with me, who told me, you should come to church with me. And so I went to that church, the same church that my little brother had did their funeral and stuff like that, did his funeral. And when I went, I ended up giving my life to God, and I had never turned around since then. It's been 14 years now. And how I ended up being with my husband is that we ended up courting for a while, and when the same church that I went to, when I went there, the women in the church, they didn't accept me, because they felt that I was just a random lady coming into the church, and gonna take over, one of their men, if you will. When that was truly the furthest thing from my mind. All I know is that I wanted the Lord and I wanted change in my life, and I knew that something had to happen fast. So I'm still talking about identity crisis. By the time when I got in there, the same people who I thought was supposed to love me, the people who I thought was supposed to teach me the ways of the Lord, I'm worshiping one day, and because I didn't know how to worship, I saw what other people were doing. They were lifting their hands, they were saying, "Thank you, Jesus." I seen tears falling from their eyes and things of that nature, and I'm like, is this how you worship God, And so I did what they did, and I did what I saw. And when I looked up and I got up off of my knees from the pulpit, I saw them laughing and snickering at me, and it caused me to turn inside. I don't know if any of you know about dealing with feelings that, of not being able to worship God because you were afraid to let people see who you really are. And so it caused me to fold inside. And then, once me and my husband got married and ended up moving out of there, I found a way, to worship God on my own, and I had to worry about what people were going to say. And what I did was I worshiped them internally, and I would just stand there and cry and cry and cry, but I dare not lift my hands because people were watching me. And so with that, I dealt with that for 7 years, and it caused a real identity crisis within myself, and those individuals really hurt me, and I almost turned my back on God because I couldn't understand how people who were supposed to love me and treat me in a positive way and show me a new way could treat me so bad. Even when they went as far as saying, "Oh, she's not no first lady," or "You can't," the random cliche thing. Excuse my friend, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, if you will, or she can't lead nobody because look at her, because I was different. I've always been a very outspoken person. I've always been a very bright, colorful woman who loves her colors, who loves, to look good and feel good about herself. And there has never been another time where I felt down about myself. But even through that time, I just was like, man, something's gotta give. I know that the God of the world, the God of the universe, the God of everything, of heaven and earth, he can't create people to treat people like that. And but that planted seed in me for 7 long years, and I couldn't worship the Lord outwardly until one day the Lord ended up speaking to me, and he said, "It's okay to worship me. So what they think?" And I went from that point, and I continued to worship the Lord after that, openly and freely. And now nobody's gonna beat me in praising him, I promise you, and worshiping him, because he had delivered me from that. This identity crisis thing, I believe that it also came from my dad, because whether we want to believe it or not, but our identity comes from our fathers, and that even goes all the way back to Genesis, where God telling us how we were made. And I'm just like, that's naturally and spiritually. And so from that point, I thought about trying to overcome this thing. I led a long life within this relationship with my husband, trying to figure out who I was, because we would go to services, and every time we went to a service, there couldn't be a service. I don't care whether it was 10,000 people in the room or 5 people in the room. Every single service we went to, somebody would call my husband out. "Man of God, wow, the anointing on your life and such, and I would feel like I was so in the background because all of it was still kind of new, and I would just hide and hide and hide behind him. And I always, felt that I never really had that, that chance to just grow by having a mentor, by having a woman of God or any women of God to pour into me. The only pastor I've ever really known was my husband. And so, I mean, my husband and God would teach me and just teach me and teach me and teach me. And then, but still, you always have that feeling where you're yearning for another individual who have been in this walk for a while to lead you to a next place, And so I would find myself searching, but then at the same time, I'm still turning inward because now, since my husband is already on another level and I felt that I couldn't match up with him or be who God have called me to be as his helpmeet in the ministry or his partner in the ministry or the co-pastor or whatever you want to call it. I felt like I couldn't line up with it, and it caused so many issues within my own self, until one day I was thinking about or not thinking about, excuse me, I was talking to the Lord, and the Lord ended up, telling me that, well, I'll allow for certain people to be around you, or I'll allow for you to, glean from certain people, but I'm not going to put everybody in your path, not at this time, because I guess I was a very impressionable person, and I would have took on some stuff that I didn't need. And God was very serious about who I was around and who I hung around, or who was able to speak into my life, because also the gifting that he gave me of being prophetess, I would take, and the gift would just kick in at any time, and I will take and back up from people and just be like, oh no, that's not it. I can't do that. I can't be around this person. I can't do that. No, we don't need to be involved with that person. And then I would become so guarded. Even in the identity crisis, still trying to understand the gifting that God gave me. It all just worked together, From that component, I believe that I've started to come out of identity crisis when the Lord started giving me dreams, and they were becoming even more vivid, and he'll give me visions of scrolls on the air, and just all kind of things I would be seeing. And then I had one vision when he showed me him handing me a piece of paper. It was an authority figure, and he handed me a piece of paper. I look at it, and the paper says, validation comes from the Lord. And I said, huh? It took me a minute to understand what he was saying. He said, you're looking for people to validate you, and that's the reason you haven't come out of your identity crisis. And I said, Lord, but I don't understand. I don't believe I'm looking for people to validate me. I just want to be who you call me to be, and I haven't really had anybody to show me how to do this, And then he was like, you've already been validated to do it. You know what to do, And I'm like, but Lord, And he goes, validation comes from the Lord. Man can only confirm that which was already to be. And I was like, what? Man, God, you got deep on me there. But from that point, I was able to come out. And then I had another dream where the Lord, I was sitting at a round table, and he was sitting at the head of the table. And now, mind you, this is an authority figure in my dream, and I know it's when the Lord is talking to me. He'll send that authority figure. And from that point, I was like, oh no, the Lord was like, is there a prophet in the room? And I go hiding behind a little stump in the dream, and I'm like, I don't know who he talking to, but he ain't talking to me, you know. And he kept asking, is there a prophet in the room? And I was like, hiding behind it again, trying to hide until he had to get up and come get me. And like I said, from an early age, this identity crisis started very early. And I can't say I don't have any other kind of testimony where I struggle with my natural identity or who I thought I was or anything like that. No, I've always been a strong person, and I know that God has a purpose and a plan for our lives, and that I am who He have called me to be. I am a woman of God. I am the helper to my husband, and even though we struggle in these areas, you know, like I said before, validation comes from God, and we don't have to look to anybody else for validation. And it's unfortunate that people feel that they do have to look to other people for them to pat them on the back and tell them. God pats us on the back daily and tells us who we are, and He tells us that we were beautifully and wonderfully made, and that there's a purpose and plan, and that we are called according to His purpose. And I just believe that once we rest in the fact and rest in the knowledge that we know what God has said and what word He has spoken over us, that we will be able to overcome anything that shall come our way. And that's where I stand. I stand for God. I stand for holiness, and I just want to encourage you all with this, and just let you know that He loves you. He loves you. And regardless of if you're uncertain about who you are, I ask you to seek Him, and He'll tell you exactly who you are. He said, before you were born, He knew you. And as long as Jesus knows me, I don't care who know my name. Jesus knows my name. And as long as I'm doing His will, so be it. So be it. God is a good God, and I bless His holy name. So that is my story. There's plenty more. I could just give you a little bit more. I do a women's conference called Unveiling the Unbreakable Woman, which is tailored to, you know, women, but I am in the midst of writing a book, the Unbreakable, and then I'm doing a series on it also, the Unbreakable series, where I will have a compilation of writers. And there's so many things that the Lord has given me. I have my own business, Gifted Creations. I do a lot of things, but you know, none of that stuff is as important as what I do for the Lord, reaching souls. And that's what's important to me, and living right before God. I believe in holiness. God bless you. At this time, I'm going to challenge my sister Kim Simmons to share your story with us. God bless you all. I love you. Pastor Cherie Simmons, thank you so much for creating 5-Star Leading Ladies. You ladies cause other things to come out of people that they don't even know is there. So I thank you for God. I thank God for gracing you all to do what you do. God bless you. Good night.